Hey art nerds, so we are on our fourth Paperchild activity. We have colored and hopefully assembled the first three: a candy cane holder, a pair of shelf sitters, and a candle holder or a light holder. So today we're going to be working on our fourth Paperchild, but first I'm going to show you guys what we've worked on in the past. So this was the pair of shelf sitters, and then this is our Paperchild who will hold a little tree light bulb. And here is today's Paperchild, all watercolored and ready to be cut out. She is a tree hanger, so you would hang her over one of the limbs on your Christmas tree. So if you're not familiar with the Paperchild concept, it's basically a way to take two-dimensional art and turn it into 3D art with a little bit of clever paper engineering. Here are some of the paper children that I assembled this summer as part of the 7" Cara Volume 2 campaign on Kickstarter. So we have our copies of Cara are being printed by Versa. They have not arrived yet, but they are available for pre-order in the shop. So if you enjoy my art and you want to support what I do and you'd like your own copy of 7" Cara, you can purchase 7" Cara Volume 1 and pre-order Volume 2 now. So you will find a link down in the description where you can it's free. You can print your own Paperchild line art, or you can print out the watercolored line art, and then you just have to cut it out and assemble it. So I am working on Canson XL watercolor paper. In the first two Paperchild tutorials, I walked you guys through my watercolor process, but of course, you can color your Paperchild with whatever you want to use. If you want to use water-based markers like Crayolas, if you want to use crayons, if you want to use color pencils, if you want to use alcohol markers, or if you want to use watercolor like me, you can use whatever you feel like. I am using the Core Mini Palette for today's watercolor demonstration, and I am attaching my watercolor illustration, my sketch, my inks, to a piece of chipboard. And this is going to keep my illustration from buckling and kipping and curling up on itself as I paint it. So in the very last Paperchild tutorial, I talked a little bit about, the Christmases of my youth. So today I want to talk a little bit more about some Louisiana Christmas traditions, or at least what I think of as Louisiana Christmas traditions. Maybe it varies by the area. I grew up in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, in a little town called Luling, and it is such a little town that people don't really just talk about Luling when they're talking about Luling. They're also talking about Booty and Parody, and sometimes they're also talking about Hahnville. So it's really more like the greater Luling area, kind of like the greater New Orleans area. We're about 30 minutes outside of New Orleans, so much of my Christmas activity was spent in Kenner, in Metairie, and in New Orleans. So in the last Paperchild video, I talked a bit about Christmas in the Oaks. There is another light display in Lafreniere Park. You pay a little bit of money and you do a driving tour through Lafreniere Park. So it's not quite as involved as Christmas in the Oaks. There aren't necessarily carolers, there isn't a little train ride, but it's a very affordable way and very COVID-friendly way to have a little bit of Christmas festivity, especially if you've got a big group of people. You can just bring them in your van and take them through Lafreniere Park. Now, Lafreniere Park is in Metairie, right off of Vets. It's actually across from like a Best Buy, a TJ Maxx, and it's near Michael's and a Five Below. So if you guys watch this channel and you've watched some of my Michael's and Five Below gift guides that I've already shared, and I'll link those in the cards if you're on the market for some arty gifts this year. Right across the street is Lafreniere Park. And that's not necessarily a long-standing Christmas tradition in my family. My family has done it sometimes, but not every year. Joseph and I are definitely going to do it this year because I don't know about you guys, but 2020 has been a hard year, and I am in the mood for some Christmas festivities. I am in the mood for some holiday cheer. I can't wait to see what kind of goodies Santa puts under my Christmas tree this year, and I am all for making a gingerbread house and looking at all the pretty lights and decking my tree this year. So if you're still shopping for holiday gifts for an artist, I've got a couple of gift guides coming out to inspire you guys that I hope you guys will check out. I'll link those down in the description below as well as in the cards. If you ever need a little bit more help, more curated help or advice, please feel free to reach out to me either in the comments or during one of my live streams or via email or in my Discord server, The Paint Box. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the printables, both a colored version and a line art version for this Paperchild are going to be linked in the description below. Normally, I do charge for my printables unless you're one of my fantastic patrons on Patreon, but it's Christmas and I wanted to share that with you guys. So these are free. And please feel free to share these videos, these tutorial videos with anyone you know who's looking for some fun and very affordable Christmas activities. So, speaking of Christmas activities, when I was a girl, there's basically two periods in my life where when I was very young, we grew up Presbyterian and we would go to church on Christmas Eve, and I was part of the choir, so we would also give a Christmas Eve performance. And as a girl, we would unwrap a lot of our presents, everything except for the things from Santa, on Christmas Eve. And something else we would do is we would go down to Dollar Tree and do a bit of a white elephant stocking stuffer run. So we would try to find gifts from Dollar Tree for the stockings for all of the family members. So I would be buying gifts for 3 people, and we'd be looking for things that either they enjoyed, like candy they liked, or something useful, or something that might make them laugh or bring a smile to their face. Now, Joseph does not like junk. Me, I love junk, but Joseph is a man of refined taste, and he does not like crummy plastic that will break immediately. So I don't think we're going to be doing the Dollar Tree stocking stuffers this year. But that was a fun activity. It didn't cost a whole lot of money, and it was always a blast watching my family members go through their stockings on Christmas morning. So in my house, Santa didn't fill the stockings necessarily. Sometimes he'd slip a little something extra in the stocking, but usually the family members would fill the stockings for the other family members. But on Christmas morning, that's when we got to unwrap our presents from Santa. And it could be all sorts of things. In fact, one year I got a voucher that I could redeem at the local animal shelter to adopt a cat. And that was one of the best years because I had been waiting for years to have a cat of my own. And that was the year I met Midnight. You know, I went into the shelter thinking I was going to get a kitten, and there were no kittens to be found, but this scrawny black oriental cat we just knew we were meant to be together. You know, the lady, the attendant at the shelter said that I was the first person that the cat actually got up and wanted to interact with. And when I held her in my arms, she would not let go. And I'm tearing up thinking about it. That was many years ago, but Midnight was definitely one of my familiars, and she was my best friend for many years. So that was a really treasured Christmas present from Santa. So anyway, when I was Presbyterian, if we didn't go to Picayune, Mississippi, where my grandparents live, which I talked to you guys about, I mean, normally we did, we would go to church and I would sing in the choir, and then we would head over to Picayune to celebrate Christmas with my extended family on my mom's side. But if we didn't do that, then the next morning, on Christmas morning, we'd open our presents from Santa and we would have Christmas dinner at home. But that happened, I think, just once. I think mostly we went to Picayune and we would have a big Christmas dinner the next day where we'd have the adults table and the children's table. And even after I was long since old enough to leave the children's table, they still kept putting me at the children's table. And when I would ask about it, I'd be told, oh, but you're still too young to sit at the adults table. But really, it was because they wanted me to babysit the younger kids, and they could have just told me that, but they didn't. But that's okay. But I really love those Christmas dinners, my grandmother would always put out these little platters of like pickles and cheeses and salamis, and I would just fill up on that because I love olives and pickles and cheeses and salamis. And, you know, I would love to do that for my kids someday. So after my grandfather died, my family converted to Catholicism because that's what my mom grew up as. And Christmas became very different. I lost the choir. And what's sad is that choir was such a big part of my life. I really loved it. I really derived a lot of enjoyment from learning different songs and getting to perform as a group. And it was really sad to lose that. I'm a fairly decent singer, although I don't think I have any shakes at a soloist, and my family crushed any dreams I might have had of a professional singing career pretty early on. Ha! I showed them I became a comic artist and said, that's so much more lucrative. Nope. But I really loved being in the choir, and I really took a lot of pride in the work that I did in choir. And, you know, when we joined the church we joined, Holy Rosary, they didn't have a choir, and they had no plans at having a choir. So that was a hard transition for me. I really felt like I lost a lot. But, you know, both churches I grew up at really went all out for Christmas. The Presbyterian church would get this huge tree to put in the front of the church, and Holy Rosary would deck the whole front of the church with multiple fir trees and with fir wreaths, and they would hang these banners, and it just always felt really festive and Christmassy. So we would go to Christmas Eve Mass at 4, and then we would eat a Christmas Eve dinner afterwards, which was usually something very simple. We might have gumbo, or we might go and buy like those frozen appetizers at Walmart and do kind of like an appetizer platter like that. And then we would open Christmas presents as a family. And then the next morning, we would get our presents from Santa, which even as you get older, you never stop enjoying presents from Santa, right? It's nice to see that your hard work, that your good behavior has been recognized over the years. And y'all, I'm really counting on Santa to bring something really good this year, because I don't know about you guys, but 2020 has been hard, and I've been a very good girl this year, and hopefully I've brought a lot of cheer to you guys. I certainly have enjoyed being able to share my artistic ability and share my artistic knowledge with y'all. So, one thing that my mom and I sometimes do, neither of us are bakers. We are more crafters than bakers, and I have given many crafty Christmas presents over the years, from things that I've embroidered to homemade candles to homemade soaps to art and illustration. I do have to say, giving art and illustration is always the hardest gift to give, not necessarily because it's more time consuming than those other things, but because when people like the art gift, it really means the world. But when people are unappreciative of the art gift, it's really kind of difficult. So one year, Joseph asked me to paint his brother, his sister-in-law, and their 2-year-old son. And he was going to give it to them as a gift. And I did it for Joseph. And you know, they've never said anything to me about that painting, and that painting took a couple of weeks. So you have to be really careful about who you give art gifts to, because they are so time consuming and so labor consuming, and you do put so much thought and care into that process. So you really want to be careful who you give art gifts to. I do still give gifts of art, but I'm much, much more picky about who I choose to give art gifts to. Like, I've painted things for my mom before, and I've painted things for Joseph before, and for my younger brother. But outside of that circle, you know, if you want art from me, you're just going to have to commission it. But that's not to discourage you guys from giving art gifts. I love getting art gifts. I love when someone takes the time and the effort and the energy to paint or draw or sketch something for me. When they're drawing one of my characters, or they're drawing Bowie, or they're drawing Joseph and I, it always really means a lot to me to know that someone loves me that much, that they would put that much time into a present. I mean, money is dear, and it's hard to come by this year for many of us. But an art present, while it might not cost a lot financially, it costs a lot emotionally, and it costs a lot of time as well. So once I was old enough to go to grad school, once I got into SCAD for grad school, all the way in Georgia, which was like a 13-hour drive from Louisiana, Christmas has kind of changed. So I wouldn't come home for Thanksgiving, but I would spend about a month in Louisiana with my family. And at that point, my dad had already passed away. And like I mentioned in the other video, after my grandfather passed away, Christmas really changed for me. After my dad passed away, Christmas changed even more, and it started to become a holiday that I kind of just dreaded. I didn't really enjoy Christmas. You know, I'm fine with Halloween, I'm good with Easter, but Christmas was just kind of so depressing because, you know, television made it seem like it was such a warm family event, and my friends had these large extended families that lived near them, and they would go do things with their families. And for many years, it was just my brother, my mom, and I, and then sometimes my aunt. So my relationship with Christmas kind of went downhill for a while. And it didn't really improve when I lived in Nashville either. And part of that was I basically had to upheave my entire life for 2 weeks. And I couldn't do my work. I couldn't create Christmas-themed illustrations because I was working from a whole other state. And it was just kind of difficult to do. But this year we've moved back to Louisiana. We got married and we moved back, and it means Christmas doesn't have to be this big struggle. It can be something more enjoyable, I hope. And my family's expanded too, because since I've gotten married, I now have another mother and another father and another brother that I can share Christmas with. Plus, I have a husband, so my world this Christmas has gotten a whole lot bigger, and I'm really excited about it. I get to put up my own Christmas tree. I get to wrap my own presents. I don't have to ship things a million miles just so that I can give them at Christmas. It makes Christmas so much easier for me, and I feel like my life has just kind of come together and become one. And it means I can do Christmas things with you guys. We can do Christmas art streams, and we can do Christmas art activities like this one. And I can show you how to draw all sorts of different Christmas-related and holiday and winter-related things, because I'm not going to be shuttling back and forth across the country thinking I'm losing my mind. So for me, this might be the best Christmas since my grandfather died a long time ago, and I'm really excited about it. Even though COVID has changed so many things and made so many things difficult or just not able to happen this year, for me, it might be the best Christmas I've had in a long time. So, speaking of, I know some of you guys are probably worried about Santa. What's going to happen with Santa and COVID this year? Well, you guys got to keep in mind that he's been self-quarantining up at the North Pole. He and his elves, no one's coming in, no one has been going out, so he's safe, he's healthy. And from what I've heard, I've got a little elf on the inside. He's going to be wearing a mask, going into everyone's house. He's got gloves, he's got good PPE. And he's going to be safe and able to deliver as many presents as possible this year. So I think he should be all right this year. At least that's what my elf friend told me. Alright, so we've painted yet another Paperchild together. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I sure love just getting to open up and talk to you guys about my life and my experiences. I hope you guys don't mind hearing about it while I paint for y'all. I think it's like having a little bit of company when we can't always safely have friends over. So it's a little bit like hanging out. Now, if you're wondering how I painted this, I do have 2 straightforward watercolor tutorials where I walk you through my watercolor process step by step to show you how it's done, and I'll link those in the description. And the assembly video is going to be a straightforward assembly video where I just show you guys how to cut and assemble these so that you can hang them on your own Christmas tree. Anyway, I look forward to Christmas this year, and I look forward to sharing Christmas with you guys. If you want to spend your Christmas with me in some small or great way, keep an eye on the community tab. I'm going to announce when I have live streams coming up so we can hang out. And I have a bunch of really fun Christmas-themed drawing tutorials for you guys as well. If you guys enjoy videos like this one, leave me a big old thumbs up. And it would really mean a lot to me if you shared this activity or any of the other Paperchild activities with friends who are looking for something fun to do this Christmas season. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope your holidays are safe, happy, and warm. Bye, guys!